Thanks for tuning in, and welcome to the April sessions of the Google Partners Academy on Air. My name is Çağrı Merdan.
My name is Sylvanus Bent. We both work on text search ads and AdWords.
And today we'll talk about creative excellence. What we mean by that is to write compelling text ads and what your ad rotation settings should be in order to get the best performance. We'll also talk about what you can expect in the following sessions of the Google Partners Academy on Air. So in the following sessions, we'll talk about ad extensions and how they add value to your ads. And in the last session, that will be about what the optimization levers are in order to have a fully optimized account and fully optimized text ads. Now, as I said earlier, today's session is Create, and we'll talk about how to write compelling text ads. What do you need to consider in order to really come up with good text ads? We'll also talk about what the recommendation is for the number of ads that you should have in an ad group. And we'll also talk about the recommended ad rotation setting for all your campaigns. Now, if there's one thing that you should go out with from today's session it's actually two things that you should remember when you go out of the session, is first, that you should have at least 3 ads per ad group, and that your campaign setting for ad rotation should be set to optimize for clicks or conversions. Those are the 2 most important things, and we'll deep dive into those in the following minutes. Now let's kick it off. Let's start off with a very impressive stat. So there are over 3.5 billion searches on Google globally every day. And by the way, you can actually Google that. You can Google that yourself, that information.
3.5 billion, that's a lot.
That's quite a lot. That's actually 40,000 searches per second.
Wow.
We don't serve ads on all of these, so we only show on some of these searches ads. But for you, obviously, the most important question is, how can you write the best ad possible and stand out? How can you make your ad stand out in the best way possible versus other ads? Yeah. Now, we'll talk about this in more depth. But I think one thing you should always consider when getting to the point where you're showing the right message in the right moment is that every search is really different. Now, we'll walk you through an example that really highlights that point. Every search is really dependent on the user context, and your ad should be customized and responding to that accordingly. Well, let's take a look at a search query such as pizza. It's a fairly simple and basic search query, but a lot of people like pizza. So a user that types in the search query pizza on a laptop during lunchtime is more likely to be looking for pizza delivery versus a user that is typing the same exact search query, pizza again, on a mobile phone during the evening. And that second user is more likely to be looking for to book a restaurant, a pizza restaurant. And so that example shows you why it's so important to really customize your messages and to show them in the right moment. That can be tricky, but we'll go through the steps that are required in order for you to come up with the best text ads. Now, and I mentioned this earlier, one of the most important rules is to have 3 ads per ad group. Our internal studies have shown that an ad group that has at least 3 ads performs, on average, a lot better than an ad with only 1 or 2 ads. The ad group with 3 or more ads sees a performance uplift of 15% of more clicks or conversions versus the ad group with only 1 or 2 ads. And in both use cases, the campaign setting needs to be set to, the campaign setting for the ad rotation needs to be set to optimize for clicks or conversions. But we'll deep dive into ad rotation campaign settings in a little bit. Now, let's keep that in mind to have always 3 ads or more per ad group. Now, let's take a step back and think about how to write a compelling ad, an ad that really captures what you can offer, and an ad that really reflects what the user was looking for with that search query. We'll break down the ad into 3 components. The first component is are the headlines, obviously the most important ones. And then Sylvanus will also talk about description lines and the URL paths. Now, the headlines really are the most important part because it's the blue area that is clickable, and they're the most prominent part of your ad,
right.
And they should include a value proposition of yourself that you can think of. So if you want to find out what your value proposition is, it should be something like a service offering or a product functionality that really makes your business stand out, that really makes it stand out versus other businesses, that you should always include in your headlines. You should also make sure that you are aligning the theme of your ad groups and campaigns to the text ad, to the headline, so that there is some coherence. I think that's also fairly intuitive, because the more relevancy, the more likely it is that you'll get a click. You should also make sure for the user to have a deja vu moment. So use keywords in your headlines, for example, so they know that this ad will be relevant for what they were looking for. And also, when you do ad copy tests, then also try to shift the most amount of time on testing the headline. And then step 2 should be description line or the URL path. So always focus your attention on the headline first. If you are running, if you're about to create a headline for your brand ad groups or brand campaigns, then you should try to be as direct as possible. So include, for example, such things as official site, and also include brand terms that are relevant to your brand. And also even think of terms that have proven to be successful in the past, such things as including price ranges for your products or your services, promotions, or even exclusive offers will help you to engage with your customers and drive the high-quality traffic to your site.
So then for description line, this is really your opportunity to give your customers more information about whatever your product or offering is. So take advantage of the space. Give them more details about exactly what the offering is. Maybe highlight some unique benefits, attributes about that product or offering. And you can even have a call to action. If you do use call to actions, make sure it's relevant. You want to not have a false sense of urgency. You do want to help people understand, book it today, for example, on hotels, because it is true that maybe the hotels will run out of vacancy. So it's great to use that description line to flush out whatever you're trying to advertise for, so that your customer has a really good sense of exactly what you're selling, what you're offering. And then the URL path, it also follows a similar pattern. This is your chance to help the user and your customers when they see an ad, when they know what exactly destination or landing pages they're going to land on. You want to, if you have a part of your domain and you have a specific part that is dedicated to this product, it just gives the user confidence exactly where they're going to land. So that's how these are like the key steps you should do to create a compelling text ad. And then I want to talk a little bit about a couple do's and don'ts. So we talked about the most important thing is making sure that your ads are relevant for that query and the keyword. So on the left-hand side, for example, if the keyword is about articles or about college financing, right away you see an example ad where it talks right about, clearly college financing is directly in the headline. It's got a specific action, so download specific guidelines. And that's a great ad that is really well formed to the query.
Mm-hmm.
On the right-hand side, you also have an ad, but it's not as relevant. So we're still talking about college financing articles, and instead they're talking about pay for education. It's close, but it's not as relevant. So think about, our system would see those two ads, and first it would decide that one ad is more relevant for the user in that query. And second, even if once the ad gets on Google search, users are going to be much more likely to choose the ad on the left. So the goal is always make sure that your ad text is relevant and tied tightly themed to your keywords. And then include additional information. That's another do. So for example, when you've got an apartment, if you're have apartments for rent, you might want to describe like, what is the rent, what's the square footage, some features about the apartment, other amenities, really like flesh out the details so that when a person goes to click, they're excited. They like want to take action on that ad. You got to be careful using templates. So we've heard some advertisers, there are times people will say, oh, they just fill out a templated form as you're filling out this text. It might work in some cases, but honestly, it's not a good best practice because you're just dumping content in, and you want that basically takes the creativity and your formatting out of for this specific keyword, making sure that the text is well themed and grouped towards that those ad groups and those keywords. So be careful using templates because again, you're just dumping content in and not really knowing, is it really well themed and formatted? Talk about a few more?
Yeah, I'll take over. So obviously, when the user comes to Google and searches for something, you might be asking for a question. And so make sure in your text ads that you're not repeating that question because the user already asked the question. Instead, try to come up with an answer already so that the user gets the answer to his or her question. And so one example here is if a user was looking for a plumber or a local plumber, then be the one that says, I am a local plumber here, and I offer my services. I'm very responsive. Even within 60 minutes, I'll respond. And so make sure that you're giving an answer or reply right away instead of just repeating the question of the user.
And also, it's just not a good use of the space. So if the user already has typed in looking for a plumber, don't say, do you need a plumber? That's a waste of characters. Like you said, makes a lot more sense to answer. Yes, we are a plumber. We're here. We're local. We're available.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And so while you're answering that question, you should also include user needs and benefits. Make sure that you have, and Sylvanus touched on that when talking about the description line, try to educate and inform what your service is about and how you can actually, what your offering is to fulfill that user's need. Be as detailed as possible. We are giving you, there's a lot of space in the description line right now. And so make sure that you're thoughtful of what the user need is and how you can service that need.
Okay, a couple questions.
Yeah, so we're actually moving over to the myth-busting section. I'll read out questions, and then Sylvanus will answer those questions. These are things that we have heard in the past. So it's very anecdotal. Sometimes these are questions or just statements that we've heard. And we want to clarify these.
Sure.
So we'll take the chance here and go through a couple of them.
Yeah.
All right, let's start off.
What do we got?
So my historic standard text ads are performing fine, so there's no need to think about expanded text ads.
You know what? That's false, and it makes sense, right? We made it as of January 31st that you can no longer edit the standard text ads. So two things. Number one, you want to take control of your ads, and you want to be able to update them over time. You want to make them more relevant, continue to craft them. So you absolutely should move over to the new expanded text ads. We have more space available. It's a better use, and they do perform better. Also, you want to try using the expanded text ads today so you can understand the performance, understand what works in the headlines and what works in descriptions. Try that out now. There's no reason to wait. They're better.
Yep, exactly. Next one. If my text ad has low CTR, I should pause it.
Again, that's false, right? If you have a text ad and it's got a low CTR, if you're on an optimized setting, just let the system choose. So here's why. The ad could have a low CTR, but it's really relevant for some queries and some keywords. There's a reason why it's getting chosen by the system. So if you remove that ad, it doesn't mean that another ad in the ad group that has a higher CTR is just going to take its place. Instead, you actually could be shrinking your pie. And so you're going to lose out on clicks and conversions versus just leaving that ad and let the system choose when it's the best fit for those relevant keywords in that context. So no, absolutely don't pause your ads. You can have up to 50 ads per ad group, so you've got plenty of space.
Exactly, and that is in line with what we have said earlier.
Yep.
Most important rule, or one of the most important rules, have as many ads as possible. Of course, there is at some point a point where you can't have 1,000 ads in your ad group.
Right.
There is a point where the management of the ads in an ad group becomes very complex and cumbersome. But up to the point where you can manage 3, 4, 5, 6 ads in an ad group, you see better returns, better performance, and there is no need to pause any ads in there.
Makes sense. And actually, this is a great segue into the next topic. So we wanted to talk a little bit about ad rotation. So we've talked about allowing the system to choose the best ads. And when we have settings for this, a part of ad rotation, they're the 2 optimized settings. So optimize for clicks and optimize for conversions. When advertisers use this, you can gain up to 5% more clicks and conversions compared to accounts that are rotating. And that's a big deal. So if you want more clicks and you want more conversions, use optimize for clicks and conversions. And the reason why, it makes all the sense in the world to have our system choose the best ads to send to the auction. And actually, that's another key point. When you think of ad rotation, the entire purpose of ad rotation is to say, for this keyword and this query in this context that's coming in, which of the ads in the ad group are most relevant? So you basically have 2 options. Either you can let the system choose the best ad, and if we choose the best ad, we can send that to the auction. You're way more likely to win. And if you win the auction, you're more likely to get impressions and clicks and conversions. If you rotate, then you're basically saying randomly choose ads. And so we're going to choose, there will be circumstances where you choose an ad that's randomly assigned and is worst for that query when we could have chosen a better ad. So when I think of ad rotation, to me, it's a no-brainer. Use optimize for clicks and conversions. And this slide, actually, just to be really explicit, we have those 4 settings. Again, 2 are about optimizing, choosing the best ads to send to the auction. Sometimes I've heard people say that they think that rotating means equal number of impressions, and it's not. Rotating is about just randomly choosing the ads to send to auction. So that just doesn't seem like a good strategy. You're about performance. So we want to make sure you can allow the system to choose the best ads based on whether you're trying to drive clicks or trying to conversions. So we really recommend use the 2 optimized settings. The rotate settings really would avoid it.
Exactly. So, and I keep coming back to the beginning of our presentation, where we recommended to have 3 ads per ad group, and to use it together with optimize for clicks and or conversions as an ad rotation settings, because I think this is also, like, again, this is intuitive. The larger the pool of ads our AdWords system has, the more likely it is it will find a relevant ad to a given search query, right? If you have only 1, well, I guess the system will only pick this one. But if you have more, the rotation system will be able to find the most relevant one. The larger the pool of ads you have, the more likely you'll have a very relevant ad for that query.
And it makes sense because queries are always changing. The context of those queries change. The drive in mobile, for example, in the last several years has really changed the way that users query and the way they type. But we don't know what the next changes are going to be. So you want to continue to have ads that say similar messages about what you're trying to advertise, but try, again, what we talked about, changing the maybe the product attributes in the headline, or a different way to talk about your brand or your product. And all you're doing is giving yourself more chances to compete in more auctions, and more auctions, more wins, more impressions, more clicks.
Exactly.
More myth busting.
More myth busting.
All right, let's do it.
Same. So you know how it goes. I'll ask the question.
Sure.
By using optimize rotation settings, I can't test new ads.
You know what? That's false. And the reason why is the optimize is actually testing. That is the entire purpose. So when you add a new ad to an ad group, the optimized system is going to try to figure out, well, where's this new ad? Where's it for what queries, what keywords is this ad good for? It will try it out. Sometimes it's going to try those out, and those ads don't win the auction. And if they're not winning the auction, the system might say, then you're not getting impressions. And the system will learn over time that this ad is not really good for these specific keywords. If you add a new ad to an ad group, we absolutely do test it. And if it's getting impressions and clicks and starting to drive traffic, that means it's a great fit for those keywords. But absolutely doesn't mean that you can't test ads. In fact, it's optimized is trying to test and find the best ad.
Yeah, it's implicit ad copy testing.
Yep.
that is integrated into the entire system.
Agreed.
All right. Next myth. Optimized rotation is compatible with third-party platform solutions.
Guess what? This one's true. So we've actually talked to many of the third-party platforms, and they have said and made it very clear that one of the optimized settings, whether clicks or conversions, are supported, and you can use them with using a third-party tool. So don't think that just because you're using some third-party tool that you have to be on the rotate setting. It's just not true. So if you're using a third-party platform and you want to get the best clicks and performance or conversions, use Optimize. Switch to either Optimize for clicks or conversions. You can still get better performance and still use a third-party solution.
Yep. Sounds great. Next one. Optimized rotation will not give my ads a fair chance to compete. What was that?
This one's false. So this is similar to the first question.
Yep.
We do give ads a fair chance, and you have to rest assured it's in our best interest to try all your ads and make sure that we understand, is this new ad better for given queries and keywords? We actually are learning about ads all the time. So even when we're optimizing, we are going to continue to learn, and because queries change, seasonality, all kinds of things can change, and we don't want to say that a new ad doesn't get a fair chance. So we absolutely do. We continuously learn and test to make sure that we understand how this ad performs in different contexts. So I've seen you might see instances where ad with higher CTR doesn't serve as often. All that means when you're on Optimize is that this ad is probably relevant for a smaller set of keywords. And for those keywords, it performs really well. But for the other keywords, it may not perform nearly as well. It'd be better than another ad in that system. So just don't look. You can't just look at CTR and say, because the CTR is higher, therefore absolutely this ad should serve.
Yep. Great. That's very helpful.
Cool.
All right. I think we're moving on to the next section.
Time for questions?
It's time for your questions.
All right.
Let's go through these. All right.
Okay.
So the first question is, we kind of like touched on that in one of those myths on ad rotation, and most of these are actually the questions that we have are on ad rotation. So can I create new ads with the optimized ads rotation setting? Is that possible?
Yes, you can. Yeah, in fact, you should. You should create new ads.
Yeah.
You should put them into the ad groups. Let the system learn and figure out where these ads are good. And again, if it gets impressions, if it's getting clicks, then that means the system is realizing for some set of keywords, it is a good fit. If it's just not getting impressions, it doesn't mean that we're not trying. It just means we're trying and it's not a good fit for those keywords or queries.
Excellent. You just talked about when you have optimized for clicks, but the ad with the high CTR is not getting the most impressions.
Yeah.
So we already answered that.
We answered that one. Yeah.
Great anticipation. Should I remove ads which are not performing as well as others in the ad group? And we have talked about that kind of with the pausing.
Right. Again, just to reiterate, I wouldn't do it. It doesn't mean that you can pause the ad and then the other ads will take over all of that traffic.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of times we see that people pause ads and actually shrink their pie. So you'll just get less clicks and conversions. I wouldn't do that. Yep. What other questions we have?
What is the confidence interval that Google recommends to use to decide that a split is statistically relevant as a 95% standard?
So I think this is someone's doing like manual ad copy testing. I don't know if I would recommend a specific interval. I mean, 95% is obviously it's a standard statistical threshold to look at, but I wouldn't say that we recommend any specific one. Again, ideally, you putting this on Optimize and letting the system choose. But if someone said, what statistical significance, like level do we normally look at things? It is 95%. There's nothing wrong with that.
Very good.
Yeah.
Next one is a good question as well. It's asking, how should I decide between optimized for clicks or conversions? Because I also kind of interchangeably use them when saying we have, because the uplifts that we see are very similar to each other, right? So what do you think? Should they use optimized for clicks or conversions?
Sure. So by default, most people should probably be doing optimized for clicks if you're trying to drive traffic to your website. and that is the most important thing. You're trying to get attention and brand.
Yeah.
If you have conversion tracking on,
Yeah.
so that means number one, you need to make sure that your conversion data is inside of the system so that the system can understand what ads are converting well. So that's the most important. Number two, you need to have some conversion tracking set up on your site. There has to be a clear action where the customer goes in, they do something that converts. And then thirdly, when you do optimize for conversion, you really should have one of our conversion-based bidding strategies set up. So for example, eCPC, target ROAS, there are bidding strategies that take into account which ads and keywords convert better, and it will bid more at those times when we're more likely to convert better. So to answer the question, most people should be using clicks. Again, if you just the basic use case, you want people to click on the ad and drive traffic. But if you can set up conversion tracking, make sure you have the conversion data inside of Google, then you're using one of the bid strategies, then that's the perfect use case of using Optimize for conversions. It just means that we're going to select the best ad for conversions and send that one over to auction.
Okay,
Makes
perfect. The next question is about the norm or recommended range for ads per ad group.
Sure.
And I think we kind of like touched on that a lot because of the 3 ads per ad group, but what would be the maximum?
Sure, okay. So we've done a number of studies actually that internally to kind of get some data and aggregate. As you mentioned, we saw the difference between 1 ad per ad group and 3 ads per ad group on average was about almost a 15% uplift, and that's significant. Going from 3 to 5, there's still uplift that's worth it if you can manage that. As you imagine, the more ads you add, there's diminishing returns. I would say if you're past like 7 to 10, and once you get into that range, you're probably getting most of the benefit you can in terms of just raw number. Beyond 10 ads per ad group, I probably wouldn't do it unless you just can truly manage that number. So I'd say the sweet spot is 3 is the minimum, 5 to 7 is perfect based on the kind of numbers we've seen.
Okay. Great. So the next one is an interesting question. What about the rotate setting for ad rotation? If we are recommending to use Optimize, why do we offer rotate at all? And I think it's like a legacy thing.
There's a lot of legacy things based on what capabilities we had at the time. The fact that our optimization is much better than it was 10 years ago. And so a lot of things are more about legacy than specific use case where we think it's the best. In terms of pure performance, if the goal is clicks and conversions, Optimize are vastly better. So to me, it really is as you said, it's more about legacy, what had been there based on what we could do at the time, 10 years ago or more, and just some things we haven't changed, but we're always trying to figure out how can we get better performance and how can we improve Optimize. And today it's much better.
And this is also why we have this Academy on Air to basically clarify that misconception that rotate is, even though we offer it, we should rather use Optimize for clicks and conversions.
That actually reminds me, one of the things we've heard, some people think they need to rotate first before they optimize, and that's actually just not true. That was a very similar related question when we talked to several advertisers who said they felt like they had to rotate. It's not true. You don't need to force the system to do it first. The system is always learning and testing and still optimizing. So if you want the best performance, go for Optimize.
The next one, can you, and we touched on that a little bit earlier, can you explain better Optimize for conversion and also how that works with enhanced CPC bid strategies or bid strategies in general?
Sure. So think about this. The Optimize setting is specifically for when a query comes in, we match the keywords, we find the ad groups that are relevant, and then there's a decision that needs to be made. We need to say, which ads should we pick to send to the auction, right? The auction determines what the best ad actually is, right? The auction is where your bid and the other features other things come into play, and it figures out these ads are the ones that should actually show in search. So when you think about how the conversion works with any like conversion-based bidding strategy, the two work together. First, it says based on the conversion data we have and what we understand, let's choose the best ad to send to the auction. Now that that ad gets sent forward to the auction, your bid strategy comes into play, because if you have conversion-based bidding, we can say, this is maybe a keyword and a query and an ad that we think we should bid more on because it converts really well. So the conversion biddings can bid up or bid down based on how likely or how best they think they'll convert. So if it's really strong, it might bid up. And I think I don't remember the exact range, but there's some range of which it can bid up. If it thinks it's not as good, it might bid down. So the two work well together to say, choose the best ad for conversions and then bid up or down based on in the auction. Yeah.
Very good. If there are keywords that do not have any impressions, should we delete them or see if we need to create a new ad?
That one's kind of tough. It's a little bit
tricky.
of the art. So I think about your keywords. You want them to be themed and tight, tightly themed and grouped together. It kind of depends on what those keywords are. If you have keywords that are very different and don't map together at all, then maybe it's better to split those out into a different ad group. Let's assume that this user actually has a good keyword and they're just not getting impressions. I would try creating some new ads that are very laser focused, targeted to that keyword. Again, I know it's kind of a bit of an art depending on what exactly that keyword is, but try to create a few ads that look extremely relevant to the keyword. If you're still not getting impressions or clicks, then you might say it's not a good one, or break it out into its own ad group and come up with other keywords that are similar, take some inspiration, and then create other ads for it. So it just kind of depends on what that ad group is.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So we talked about the previous question. Let's look at this one. When you have 4 to 7 ads, how do you introduce a test into an ad group or campaign? And I think maybe we can here try to also introduce the concept of ad copy testing. We touched on the fact that Optimize is already doing some testing. And what do you think of ad copy testing in general?
In general? Sure. So like we said, Optimize is already doing some version of this. And then it just starts to choose the best ad for those keywords. But we actually do have products available. Like we have Drafts and Experiments today, which is specifically designed to do, split traffic testing. So you can, depending on the exact type of test, for example, you could try different ads. You could try different bids, different keywords. It really just depends on what what exactly you're trying to test. Also, we are developing other features that will help with ad copy testing as well inside of AdWords at scale. So I guess we think there are some specific features designed to do testing and experimentation. And if you have use cases for those, use those features. The ad rotation setting is just not designed to do testing the way that I think people might be using it.
And maybe even the name might be misleading, I'm not sure. But it's, of course, it rotates to some extent, but what it actually does is really to match.
It's about matching
ad copy and
to the keyword, to that query, right? So it's really about just finding what's the best ad that we should send forward. So then separately, if you want to do testing about this ad versus another ad, use Drafts and Experiments and we're working on a few other things as well.
Very good. Okay, well, sounds exciting. Let's see.
What else do we have down here?
This is a non-ad rotation question. What do you suggest as the ratio between standard text ads and ETAs, so expanded text ads, in an ad group? And are STAs, so standard text ads, being deprecated anytime soon?
So what I would say there is you should get to, the most important thing, get to that roughly 3 to 5 expanded text ads in your ad group, right? Even if you leave your STAs running, build out some new ETAs and just try it for yourself. Use that extra space, see how they perform alongside it. I can't comment on when or what exactly is going to happen with STAs, but I think it should be clear that because we've stopped allowing you to edit them, that there's going to be some type of deprecation coming, but I can't comment on the timing. We don't have that information available yet. But if we stop making them editable, it makes sense to don't wait till the very end to find out when that is and then have to try to craft your ETAs. Use the time now, and you actually will probably perform better and get to that roughly, like you said, at least 3 ETAs per ad group let it run, and at the very worst, let them run alongside your STAs. And then whenever we do deprecate, then you won't have to do anything in addition.
Yep.
That's what I would say.
That makes sense. That's good, helpful. Thank you. So this one is also a non-ad rotation question. And the question is, do you have any data on how using branded terms perform in headline 1 or 2 versus, for example, in the description?
I don't have any data that we can share. I think you kind of hit on this, that the headline is obviously a key part of the values. The reason they're more prominent, they're blue, they look clickable links. I can say that we have seen some advertisers try different. I think you gave the example, like maybe the official site or other large branded terms in the headlines work well.
Yes.
And so I would try variations of that. Sometimes it's just the brand itself. Sometimes it's the official brand. And different variations in the different headlines. And I think you made it. And I would try it in both headline 1 and headline 2. And try different combinations of, if you take that branded term, you still have more text. That with what? Is it with a call to action or the attribute or something that ties well to the keywords? I would try a few combinations of those, find out which works best for your business. Again, the whole purpose is when the branded terms have worked well, it's because as a user, they see these ads and they feel confident. Got it. That is the ad, the place I mean to go. Right. If you're searching for a particular product, they say, yep, that looks like the brand's ad versus maybe another ad that offers the brand but isn't the brand official ad. So that, I think it just depends on the circumstance, but that's kind of what we've seen.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think specifically on such specific recommendations how you should write an ad, we usually try to send the message that advertisers should try out. And again, like just put those ads into the ad group and see what the ad rotation setting will choose, right? Because it will make the right call, the right decision in order to optimize against clicks or conversions. And so it's almost impossible to really say
exactly
your brand term should be in headline 1 or 2, and because it might vary. There are many different advertisers, and so it's difficult to make a very generic statement about such a specific information or insight.
Absolutely. I think it just depends on, remember, imagine that the search queries can be a lot of things. We match those to keywords. Based on those keywords, if your ad was going to show, you want to say, and the person only has a second to skim it, do they see that and go, oh, that's exactly what I'm looking for, it stands out to me, or is it somewhat fuzzy, and then they skip over it? So that's just the best practice. And like you said, throw it in the ad group, set it to optimize, and let the system choose. And that'll tell you everything about what the Google system auction is thinking is best, as well as that's what's going to perform better with the users, because the feedback from users clicking or converting goes back into our system so that it can make better decisions, keep picking at the best ad going forward.
Very good. We have another question on the uplift actually for 3 ads per ad group. So is the 15% uplift still relevant if you have ad groups with a smaller number of tightly themed keywords? Let's say it's 2 or 7 keywords. I could easily understand uplift for lots of keywords in one ad group, but does that hold true for laser-focused ad groups?
So I don't have that analysis that we could share about the keyword theming. But here's what I would say. Even with tightly focused themed keywords, there are a lot of different queries that can match those keywords, and the context is the other thing. You talked about on a device or near the location, time of day, right? Or is that person, what audience are they a part of? What demographic? There's a lot of factors that can go into, what is the right ad to choose.
Also, what match type you're using for your keywords.
Exactly, and what match type. And I think even on the most strict match type, there's some variation on the type of keywords that can come in. So I would say, again, we can't say like exactly if it's 2 to 7 where the number is, but I'd say in general, we've seen that this holds true. And so even if you're in that 2 to 7 keywords and you feel like they're tightly themed, there's no harm in getting to that three ads. Even like you said, you go to the bare minimum, get 3 ads per ad group, and you should notice often that will drive more clicks. And as long as the ads are pretty different, try variations of the message, the headlines, call to actions. Try different things. And then remember, you can use things like if functions
Yeah.
to target mobile device, so that
Yeah.
when the users are on mobile device, or if they're part of a particular audience. So try things like that to customize your message to very specific groups as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and that should be really, it could be a segue to a different session, maybe sometime
Yep.
potentially in the future,
Could be.
to talk about ad customization. We have great tools for that, such as ad customizers, and you mentioned if functions, which just recently launched.
We work on ad customizers. That's why.
Yeah.
We'll plug for ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Bit of advertising here.
You know, we're advertising. That's what we do.
Yeah. Anyways, let's move on to the next
Okay.
question. This is about landing page best practices. So
Okay.
the question is, what are your recommendations for landing page best practices? Let's say the keyword is already in the landing page and the landing page experience is still low or bad, I guess.
Yeah, low, bad.
Yeah.
It's hard to know exactly what they're talking about, but
Yeah.
I guess in general, imagine when a user clicks on that ad and they've expected something based on the text.
Yeah.
When they go to wherever they land, you want to make it really clear. It should have a place where the product or offering is front and center. And if the goal is to sign up for the website or to buy the product, it should be extremely obvious and clear, like that call to action on the site when they first land.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I think we saw one specific case where ad was talking about a product that someone was offering.
Yeah.
They then went to the homepage, and on the homepage they talk about a variety of products, and then the user would have to like navigate through several pages, find the right product again, then click it, then read about it, and then decide to convert. Versus saying just send them directly to that product specific page and make sure right there, like when they first land, first thing they should see is what exactly that was in the ad you were trying to offer, and there should be a clear call to action. Again, if it's sign up, if it's buy the ad, it should be super easy to do because you want to assume that the person's already somewhat decided that they are looking for your thing. So make it super easy for them to take that next step, which is often to convert or to sign up or take some other action.
Yeah, and for that use case you're describing, the URL path is really helpful as well. If someone is looking for basketball shoes, then you should send them to the basketball shoe landing page and not the
branded homepage. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great example. And so I think that's another part of like why you can use the path to just help the user understand where they're going to go.
Exactly.
Let's see.
All right. I think we have covered all of these. Perfect.
Okay.
So if we don't have any more questions, I think we
might call it a day.
Yeah, we might call it a day. Wrap it up. I hope this was helpful.
Hope so.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was great to talk about expanded text ads as well as optimized rotation. Again, the two key takeaways.
Yep.
You want to have at least 3 ETAs or expanded text ads per ad group. There's a significant gain going from 1 to 3. It's still pretty good gains going from like 3 to 5 or 7. You know, past that, it's probably not worth it unless you can really manage it. Takeaway number 1.
Yep.
Takeaway number 2, you want to use optimized ad rotation. Again, get yourself better performance in clicks or conversions. Allow the system to choose the best ad to send to auction. Optimize is best. Rotate is random. That's the way to think about it. If someone said, what do you want? I said, I want the best performance, not random performance.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Okay.
Perfect. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Just a quick reminder that there are more sessions to follow in our, we call it Creative Excellence series. So the following session will be about ad extensions, how they can enhance your ads already. And the last session in that series will be about optimization levers. We'll talk about how to really optimize in the best way your text ads in AdWords.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.